So please join me in welcoming to the stage Bruno Aziza, who's an architect, a business architect for us in the enterprise marketing team. Hey, Bruno. Yeah, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to take a look at actually a real customer app. I think
Right.
some of the names and data have been changed to protect the innocent.
That's right. We've been protecting the innocent. But what's really exciting about this demonstration, Tom, is that it is based on a real-life example that one of our enterprise customers is using today. And they're using the latest versions of SQL Server, SharePoint Server, as well as Performance Point Server.
Great.
You know, when you think about business intelligence, let's face it, it's more than just looking at analytics and reports. It is really about providing best experience across content management, collaboration, search, and business intelligence. And how I'm going to show you how all of that coming together is by assuming the role of an operations manager. Now, this is somebody that runs all rigs in North America. And I'm going to show you how this normal person, this regular information worker, is going through their day and taking advantage of Microsoft Business Intelligence.
Great.
So how I do that is I start my day in my page. As you can see here, this is right inside SharePoint. It's thin. It's 100% personalized for my world. It is a reflection of my world. If you look at the top left here, I've got my Outlook activities, so I can keep up to date with what's going on during my day. You can see here at the bottom left, I have my documents because it is part of me making better decisions, the ability to have access to structured and unstructured information. So here, there's Word documents, PowerPoint documents, Excel documents are right here for me to take a look at. And also the ability to connect with people is very important when you're making decisions. Because sometimes this information is not going to come from a document, it's going to come from the interaction with another individual across the organization. So here at the bottom right, I have the rest of my V team and folks that I want to interact with in order to make better decisions throughout my day.
Great. So how might your day start?
So my day starts with looking at my product production dashboard. I just want to get a sense of how activity is going. And here, with just one click, I'm able to get to a great scorecard and dashboard. You can see it requires very little for me to even get to information. I can put my simple pointer on top of a scorecard and know even if I'm colorblind here, that this metric is off target.
Sure.
I can go in here and then take a look at my progression against plan versus production. I can see if I put my pointer again, just against the month of April, which is assuming we're in now, I'm a little bit off of where I should be. Now, in order for me to further investigate, I'm going to rely here on SharePoint as the interface, but the data I'm using is all stored inside SQL Server. I can browse through it. I can browse through it very easily. You can see here, this is the south area. That's the area that's got the most variance. I'm going to click one time on that, and when I do that, you see that it's going to take me to the next level of information. Again, very, very easy for me. That's really what makes Microsoft Business Intelligence. I don't have to have a PhD in order to get to information very quickly. Again, you can see how easy it is for me to get there.
So the interactivity is great. I mean, we're starting to get to a point where we might identify we have a problem.
That's right.
What's the next step?
The next step here is now I can see this one oil rig called Cimarron has got an issue. You can see again, as I'm putting my pointer on it, I get further metadata around it. I'm going to take this information and now put it in a way that might be a little more visual, that's something that's a little bit more intuitive for me. And what you see here is the ability really of SQL Server to shine information beyond just relational. Now I can see the same information you're looking at earlier right inside a map. Now, we know that in order to get better insight, sometimes you rely on critical information that's stored internally inside your organization, but sometimes you need to get it outside your organization. So for instance, running oil rigs is highly dependent on how the temperature and the weather is going in that area. So I can click here, and simply by clicking on temperature, I can overlay now inside this map what the situation is here locally.
That's great. So taking advantage of things like spatial data type in SQL Server 2008, richer data visualizations, and really overlaying that, we give the user more context, right, for making their decisions.
That's right. And I think really if you think about Microsoft Business Intelligence and what makes us different is that this is very easy to use, but it's still very rich data. So you don't have to compromise. Now, as I'm putting my pointer on the Cimarron oil rig, this is the one that has the problem here. I can go in here and find out more information, of course, where it's located and so forth. But further, I can now click on this production trend link here and now go specifically to this oil rig to figure out what are the key metrics running Cimarron. Now, as I said, I'm an operations manager, so I know a little bit about what's going on and how I can interpret the data around that oil rig. But what I really want to be able to know is what's off about any of those metrics. And the best way to do that might be to compare it against an oil rig that's running perfectly fine. So to do that here, I'm just going to use the filtering capability right here and overlay now the data of Cimarron against one that's doing particularly well. You can see all the metrics are trending similarly, except for this one here at the bottom right. So essentially what this is telling me is that I've got an issue in this bottom right metric, and the bottom right says hole pressure. Now what do I do here?
Yeah, so figuring out that you have a problem is sort of half of it. Getting people connected to action is another big piece of what we're trying to do with the integration. So what's the next step?
So what I do next now is I've been able to really monitor what's going on and why it's happening. I'm kind of running out of my area of knowledge. I need to be able to connect with somebody that can really drill into what's causing this hole pressure problem. And big part of making better decisions is the ability to connect with other people. And so that's what I'm doing here, again, using SharePoint as a great collaboration platform. I can click on Steve Master. Steve Master is my engineering expert. And you're going to be able to see that I can ask Steve Master without even having to type.
Yeah, I can see you. Magic.
This is a magic of one of our demos. I'm also a very good typer in real life.
This explains why I don't like chat sessions with this guy either. You can't keep up. So.
But essentially what Steve is telling me is, well, typically a hole pressure issue comes from plugging the oil rig, and you should go out and bring a contractor so they can go out and fix that issue for you. Great. So now I'm in a situation where I need to go out and find a contractor to solve my problem. I don't know how any of you does that today, but it's fairly challenging. You got to go through procurement department. You might not have all the integration of the data that you need.
A lot of times you go to a different app or there is no app. And I think here they've actually, one of the things they've done that's cut time is they've integrated those sorts of search functions directly in the app, right?
That's right. So here, again, using SQL Server and the ability to integrate that right inside SharePoint makes it very easy for me to find structured information around my vendor or my provider database. But further, I can search through it very easily. In fact, I'd argue that if you can search movie times on any website, you're going to be able to conduct a search I'm going to show you in a second. So here, I'm going to say find something around Cimarron, find oil rigs around Cimarron. That's the one that has the issue. I want to go out and solve for an equipment maintenance problem. I'm a little bit in a hurry because I want to go out and solve this problem, so I'm going to pick somebody fairly reliable and somebody within 250 miles. Watch what happens on the left when I press search. There you go. Now I've got 5 different options popped in right here inside my view here.
That's great.
I can change that and say, well, since I've got 5 options, let's go out and pick somebody highly reliable, and that reduces the sample of people maybe. So I can, again, put my mouse over any of those and find out more information, very much like what we did early on in the demo. Now I can find out what organization I'm going to work with, what their rating might be, if I happen to know the people, and so forth, so I can make a decision. So at this point, really what we've done is monitor the activity, analyze what's happening, connect with people in order to make better decision. The next step is, how do I change the future now? Because essentially...
Yeah, I'd worry about that a little bit. I don't know much about...
You don't want me to change the future?
Well, yeah. You have magic already in Messenger. So, I don't know much about oil rigs, but I can't imagine fixing anything with an oil rig is a quick operation. So how do I communicate back to, my boss, Ted Cummert, or your boss?
Yeah.
How do I say what's going on with our plan? Because we're not going to be getting better for a little while, I'm guessing.
That's right. When you're going to be repairing this oil rig, it's going to take you off track a little bit on your forecast, and you want to be as true as you can to your management to tell them, well, I'm going to need to change that forecast a little bit.
Great.
So how do you do that today? In any organization, you're probably going to put a call into the finance organization and make sure you change that forecast in the next cycle. But here what we've done is really made sure that you can get access to your plan, forecast, right here in an application that's familiar to you. And we do that inside Excel. Now, many of you know about Performance Point Server, and that's really what you're looking at here. So really, inside an application that you're familiar with, Excel, we've added functionality that allow you to get access to your slice of the data that is managed centrally by Performance Point Server, secured centrally, and also all the calculation that result in the data I'm looking at now is centrally managed, so we don't have multiple versions of the same forecast. So here, I'm looking at my slice of the data, and I'm going to say, Cimarron is set at high right now. I know I'm going to set those at low because they're going to be under repair. Let's refresh what that looks like. Now, when I make this simple change, just so you know, what happens here is this low setting gets sent to Performance Point Server, to the centralized model, and the data gets back to me saying, this is what a low forecast looks like. So I don't even have, as an end user, to think about what the math behind this number is.
That's great.
Now, I'm happy with this number, so I'm going to go ahead and submit it. But the next step really is going to be, how do I let the rest of my team know that I've made those changes? So again, if you think about SharePoint as a great collaboration platform for you to do that, I can go in and simply type in a quick announcement here, and I can say, well, here's the changes that I've made. Again, showing my great ability to type extremely fast on those. And click OK. Now think about not just the collaboration scenario for this, but also the compliance issues that you might be able to resolve through that. Because we store that information, and you can go back specifically to the change made and what the additional information around these changes have been.
That's great. And so I think what we've seen is, the ability to integrate the collaboration experience, to have people really start in a familiar environment and then come back to that full cycle, all based on that platform of SQL Server and of SharePoint Server, where they're doing their work and really communicate the results of the work, not just that something's wrong, why maybe it was wrong, and then doing something about it. I think that's great.
That's right. And the good news is you can do this today. So think about it at your organization.
Outstanding.
Thank you
Great.
for your attention.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of the conference.
Thanks for your help, Bruno. Appreciate it.